Hi, welcome. This is your first PowerPoint in world history. It's early humans. Let me go ahead and present. Let's talk about the beginnings of man. Okay, man is thought to have started in Africa, started in the valleys near, I'm looking at the map, near the Congo, Tanzania, uh, Ethiopia, all that little Kenya, that area right in there. That's a lot of where many people believe man has started. They found several artifacts and fossils and human remains throughout that area. There's been other artifacts found throughout the world. Been artifacts found in South America, Australia. There's even been some found in Europe, but still the oldest ones are those found in Africa. Now, how do we know how old they are? It's something called. Let me move myself. It's something called use of carbon-14 dating. Okay, and you can see the picture right there. I'll go over real quick. What it does, it measures the amount of carbon in artifacts, compares it to give an approximate age. So you have carbon-14 dating. You got on this first one right here, you got at death, there's 100% of carbon-14, 50% after about 5,800 years, so on and so forth, 25%, all the way down to 12.5%. But there's isotopes that start to deteriorate, and that's how they're able to determine how old the artifacts are. Now let's talk about the migration of early man. This is a little off, but man started right here, like I said, in the African valleys, started to migrate into Middle East. Then they started to migrate over into India, then in parts of Malaysia, Borneo, Australia. There's another branch off right here that I couldn't find the picture to show you, but they branch off into Europe in this area right here. And let's talk about the 5 early hominids. You got Australopithecus, you got Homo habilis, you got Homo erectus, you got Neanderthal, and then you got Cro-Magnon. This first one right here is Australopithecus. Then you got Homo habilis. Then you got Homo erectus, who is really, the first truly upright man. Then you got Neanderthal, who's even more advanced than all the other ones. And then you got early man, Cro-Magnon. Many people argue that you could take a Cro-Magnon 40,000 years ago and place him into today's society, and that he could actually thrive and survive just like we do today. Let's talk about Australopithecus. They lived 4 million to 1 million years ago. If you look, there's a skull right there. Very flat nose, protruding jawline, almost ape-like. They were the first human-like creatures to walk upright. And all of these guys walked upright, if you want to argue that, but this is one of the first ones to walk somewhat upright on 2 legs. Mary Leakey finds evidence in Africa in 1978. She found Lucy, and that's the name of the one that she found. It was a female. Here's some of the areas that they believe that Australopithecus thrived. There's different classifications, but this area right here is an area I was talking about, all these African valleys with plenty of water, food, shelter, etc. Donald Johanson finds Lucy, and that's another. There's actually 2 Lucys. One of them is found by Donald Johanson. The other one is found by Mary Leakey. They classify them as 2 different kinds. They lived 3.25 million years ago. Lucy was first full skeleton found of this species. You can see how short she is right there, right in here. That's the first full skeleton found. Let's talk about Homo habilis. If you look right here, you can actually see that they're starting to use tools. 2.5 million to 1.5 million years ago. Means man of skill, so they had some skills. thought to be the first to make stone tools. Uh, very advanced for the time frame that we're talking about. Also, Homo habilis used the tools to cut meat and crack open bones, where they got most of the, nutrients inside the bones and also the meat. Evidence showed that they could cut elephant meat, so they had some. They were able to hunt in groups, and they had some skills of being able to cut elephant meat, which is a pretty tough meat to cut, from what I understand. So their rocks were very sharp. Stone tools were very sharp. Jokingly known as the handyman. Here's some of the tools that they used. You can see arrowheads, knife cutting, all kinds of. There's a hatchet. There's some needles that they could use to dig out the meat and the bone, or the marrow and the bones. Let's talk about Homo erectus. You can see it's starting to look a little bit more like man, even though it's really not man yet. Lived 1.6 million to 30,000 years ago. Remains found in Africa, Asia, and Europe. Considered to be the upright man. That's what Homo erectus means. If you look right here, they're able to start to develop fire, paintings, art, language, those type of things. Develop new ways of using stone tools, digging, scraping, etc. First group to control and create fire. Once they created fire, they're able to cook the meat, and that's what developed us into a stronger human, more advanced, or it developed our brain power bigger. Also, move myself. Also thought to create spoken oral language, like I showed you in the previous picture, art, etc. Here's some, just real quick, just a brief overview of, there's the Australopithecus. Here's Homo erectus. You can start to see the developments, smaller pelvis, smaller rib cages, smaller heads, but our brains developed more. Just a little quick overview. And then we have Homo sapiens. These were the common humans, the humans that we know of today. Lived 100,000 to 400,000 years ago. Cro-Magnon man and Neanderthals are considered the first two early Homo sapiens. They traveled from Africa. This is where they started to migrate from Africa to Asia, to Europe, and to the Americas eventually through the Bering Land Strait, or Bering Land Bridge, excuse me. Also known as the wise man. Let's compare them real quick. Cro-Magnon found in Europe, considered fully modern humans, created cave art, studied animals and stalked their prey. Neanderthal was found in Europe and Southwest Asia. First to have ritual burials. Battled Cro-Magnon for food and land. And very muscular build, looked like cavemen, like the cavemen you would see. I don't want to say like you would see in Hollywood, but definitely a larger muscular individual. Just a quick brief overviews. There's several overlapping of all these different early humans. A really good graphic of migration. 40,000 years ago, developed into Europe. 200,000 years ago, this is where most of them started. Most humans started. And then 10,000, 15,000, 12,000 years ago, they started to migrate into the Americas. All this was covered in ice, so they were able to travel across it without, worrying about the ocean too much. Let's talk about the lives of early humans. Lived in clans, which are groups of people. Were nomadic, traveled from place to place, hunter-gatherers, just developed ways to hunt on the run, gather food on the run, and just followed herds, migration of herds, followed the food sources, able to develop into highly developed hunters. Several different ways they hunted in groups. They would also force them off cliffs. Cliff hunting is kind of what they called it. They would force them to run into these little rift valleys and jump off cliffs. Early humans were dependent on wild plants and animals. Men were usually hunters, women usually gathered, and in constant search for shelter, water, and food. Let's talk about cave paintings. Very, very, very developed human brain here. Oldest ones are found, they're 30 to 40,000 years old, found in caves across Europe as well as Africa and Australia. Possibly part of religious ceremonies, also possibly part of hunting ceremonies, showing how they hunted animals, showing what kinds of animals they hunted. So it's telling a story. There's another cave painting. That's in southwestern France. I believe that's about 20 to 30,000 years old. Some more right there. Highly developed. Hyenas. Probably a water buffalo, some kind of bison. And ladies and gentlemen, don't worry about your exit ticket. We'll get to that later. Thank you.